And that's your theme tune. We're going to do a bit of work on that, make that look a little bit, sound a little bit slicker. But that's your theme tune for the first show. So thanks everyone for joining me. I can see we got 30 people now watching us, which is fantastic. It's got to be beyond what any of us were hoping for when we had this idea a couple of weeks ago. I thought the first thing that we should do this week is introduce ourselves so that everyone knows who's talking. So I'm Mark Wiltshire. I've got a podcast out here in Finland called the Explore Finland radio show, where I go out every week or so interviewing people in the Etelä-Pohjanmaa or South Ostrobothnia area and finding out a little bit more about the culture and the sports and the activities and things to do around here in this area. And through that, I've managed to make a lot of new friends, and I know that some of you are watching, and I guess also some of you will be listening after the recording finishes. I've also joined today by my two co-hosts. So first of all, we've got Rich from Escape to Suomi.
Hello.
Rich, tell us a little bit more about your blog.
Well, my blog, Escape to Suomi, it's about Finnish football in English. That's basically its selling point. My wife's from Finland. She's from Kuopio. So it was part of my plan to get integrated into the country. It's helped me learn the language a little bit. We visit a couple of times a year. I've been doing it for about 3.5 years now. And again, met a lot of good people, been abroad, watching Finland, a few different places in Europe, and met some good people. And yeah, feel free to come and visit. I'm mostly on Twitter.
And at the bottom of the screen, as we're looking at it, is Mark Hayton from FC Suomi. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about your blog.
Well, the fan site, really, has been in operation for about a year and a half. Predominantly, it's to summarize the national team, the Huuhkajat, and the national team players, to track their form and how they're doing at club level. Because I've been going to watch Finland for the best part of a decade. And I think some point about 2 years ago, I kind of got that feeling that everybody turned up to the stadium with the same questions. I mean, they had like Roman Yarmolenko, most people knew about, Teemu Pukki, most people knew about. Apart from that, you always got the question of, oh yeah, where's he playing again? And how's he doing? And what's he doing these days? So I set up the website to try and kind of track and report on the guys while they're in action across Europe and now over in the MLS. And it's been going good.
And while we're talking, if you're enjoying what we're saying, what we're doing, then if you look at the screen, just in the bottom corner of each of our pictures are the hands. These are the "We're Not Worthy" hands. Give them a click. Give us some love. Mark down the bottom there's got more than everyone else because I clicked it several times trying to open him and get him into the conversation. But we do love you. People keep joining all the time. There's 37 of you now, so bless you all for coming and joining us. Don't forget that after we finish recording tonight, we're going to stop the recording and then have a little bit of off the record time. So that can be like a little secret club for those that actually come and watch it live. And the bit that we actually record will be available as a podcast on iTunes within the next day or two. So let's just say hi to a few people that have joined. I can see Nordic Fog has joined us. Dav D has joined us, and Elias has joined us. Keke, we gave you a bit of love earlier, and there's Heba in there. Jonas, so welcome, and Toppy. So welcome, guys. Thank you. I'm not going to call out everyone's names as we go along because, believe it or not, we actually have some kind of agenda for today. There's been a little bit of thought gone into this, you know. I guess one or two of you heard us do the dry run a week or two ago, but this is for real. So here we go, and we thought that we would start the first episode of this by reviewing the Veikkausliiga season in 2015. And I know that some of those that are listening, I spent some time with you through that season watching SJK. I'm based in Seinäjoki, so we had a pretty good season. And we'll get onto that. I've no doubts. I I follow SJK, Asukor, but that's my focus. That's my way into Finnish football. Not so much the wider scene or the national team. So I'm going to steer the conversation and let Rich and Mark bring the colour and bring some more, a bit of a wider perspective to it. So why don't we start with you then, Mark? Take us back to before the season started. How were things looking at the start of this season? Well,
that's why we got interested in the season review, because if you think about a year ago, if you think about the start of 2015, FC Honka had a young and feisty manager that had managed to earn them survival in the 2014 season, only for financial ruin and mismanagement to send them down the leagues. Mylly Koskenpalo had been in Finnish top flight for, I don't know, close to a decade. They had also one of the best, the most decorated, most respected coaches in the league, Antti Muurinen. They went under because they couldn't afford the licensing fees. Teemu Tainio hung up his boots. Mika Väyrynen booked his tickets to Hollywood. HJK ran away with the title, their 6th consecutive title, with about a month to spare, and they had already planned to spend all of their Europa League money on foreign talent. Even Jonas Emmett won the Golden Boot, and he shared it with a guy called Luis Solignac, who went to the MLS, to the Colorado Rapids, and Emmett couldn't get into a national team that couldn't score against Yemen. So back at that time, all we had to look forward to was Freddie Adu.
Yeah, and that was big news, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not sure how many people actually thought something would come of that. You wrote about it at the time, Rich. What were your feelings about the much heralded arrival of Freddie Adu?
Well, it's one of those things that Freddie Adu has done the rounds, as he's almost been famous for being Freddie Adu as much as his football, even though I know he played a few times for the national team of US and did quite well. And, the last couple of years, he seems to have been doing a bit of a tour of European football, signing for random clubs and opening nightclubs as well. When I found out that he was moving to Cups, needless to say, I was rather chuffed. But to be honest, everyone who I knew at the club or my wife's family who live in Kuopio would, say, yeah, he's got the talent, but he's just not fit. He's not fit enough to play, even at Veikkausliiga level. He showed good set pieces here and there, ended up playing for Cups' reserve team, which got a lot more publicity than his games for Cups, did quite well there and drifted off, and now apparently he's doing quite well in America. I think he's in Tampa Bay now. But he was,
how much did he play? How many goals did he get up at Cups?
At Cups he didn't. I think he only played four league games, and then he played 3 Kolmonen games for Kufu, and eventually, he drifted out. He was clearly unfit, and he sort of, their contract finished by mutual consent.
Alicante on the messages there says that no goals in the Veikkausliiga, so that backs you up.
Yeah, they say I think he scored a free kick for Kufu, which got hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube by people going, "This is where he is. This is what he's up to."
He was good for the social media.
Yes, and that was about it. It put Cups on the market. They were selling their jerseys with Adu on the back for just €70. Didn't sell very many, and unfortunately, that was it.
I guess one of those shirts would now be a collector's item.
Yeah, I tried to get my hands on one when I was over there, but funnily enough, trying to buy merchandise at Finnish football grounds, it's quite difficult. Although I did get my Ilves shirt at an Ilves game. So
that was another subject of one of your blog posts during the season as well.
Yeah, that was my little review of my 3 weeks in Finland.
Was it a review or was it more of a rant?
It was a bit of both. My wife, bless her, she's very understanding. She we went to, I think, 7 games in the 3 weeks in between visiting family and friends. And sort of came back with some merchandise and seeing football from international all the way down to the Coleman and Atletico Malmi, who played in a park, which was tested the marriage.
You must love her family. 3 weeks. Yeah. Coffee cake's great, but I'm off to watch the footy.
Well, luckily the men like to practice their English on me, so we go to football and talk. So it works quite well.
So, Mark, with all this enthusiasm at the start of the season, this excitement that what you call we're going to run away with it, didn't quite work like that. What happened?
Well, I think you've got a little bit of static on your mic. At least I'm picking it up when you talk, Mark. But yeah, I mean, they lost. For Huuhkajat, everybody I think focuses on the money that they made from the Europa League, and Egan Richardson was got a bit of not a spat, just a Twitter discussion about if you have 2 million in the Veikkausliiga, that should be enough to buy you like 10 titles. But they lost. I mean, the players they lost basically an entire team from the start of the season. Robin Lod went to Greece, Valtteri Morin went to Belgium, Nikolai Alho was injured for pretty much the whole season. Dainio retired, Vaunen went to the USA, Kanji left, Dobles, the crazy keeper, left. Even guys like Manstrom, Berovoa, who's the kid, Anthony Annan, he left. And even that lad that didn't score, I think he scored once in 4. Bance something Bance. So they lost, that's like 11 players that they managed to lose for the start of the season.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Any team that.
Sorry.
It's all right.
They lost from the previous season,
and that's not counting the injuries that they had to Sorsa was out for a while, Schurer was out for a while, so they lost. I mean, they lost like an entire team.
You'll say, after qualifying for the Europa League, and they, like you say, they had the money from that, and it seemed like it was very much hello dog. It was very much a case of you trying to consolidate that, but it was the injury was crazy. At some points, it was you wondered they were taking their sort of 16 and 17-year-olds from Clubby, bringing them up and sticking them on the bench. And while a club that size have the resources, sometimes you just can't account. But then, from my side of things, I just saw a lot of poor signings, a lot of signings that went, almost the shameless looking for the Japanese market, for example, had picked up the players, who probably I'd say were on behalf of the agents looking for an inner into Europe, getting them into a top flight club. And only a couple of them even seemed to work. I mean, Guy Moussi had been at Nottingham Forest and done okay. And then Taiwo came in towards the end of the season and did again okay. But, it's just a shame that, they couldn't build on that. But that benefited the rest of the league and made it so much closer and so much more exciting for the neutral.
Well, I mean, both Robson and Esiko got stronger. And I think, Mark, didn't you do Simo in when it was the Europa League time? Valakari.
I'll say the question again, Mark. I didn't quite catch the whole thing.
Did you interview Simo Valakari?
No, I didn't get quite to the very top. I spoke to a few of the players, and I spoke to Chris Cleaver as well, the first team coach. That was kind of just to try and mark the fact that Asiko had their first game in Europe, and there was a lot of optimism and hope maybe rather than expectation. And I think they were taught a lesson that when you play European football, the other team will defend and hit you on the counter attack, and it happened twice in 2 games, and both of those were lost 1-0. Unfortunately, but that is experience they'll take on for next year. I think. I was going to say, while you was talking about the.
Oh, I think we're losing Mark.
The problems
we're
of
losing Mark.
the Mark. Are you losing me or the other one?
Yes. No, you.
Me.
The host.
That's because we've got too many visitors on here now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Now you're clear. Go for it.
It seemed like the other clubs didn't really put that much pressure on throughout the whole of the season. Seacor also signed, I don't know, and I don't know. They all played okay, but nobody really was amazing. I felt for most of the season. So. What
I don't know. I mean, Röpi Riski came in, and what did he get? He got 6-7 goals in about 10-11 games.
Yeah, but that was in the middle of the season. I'm thinking kind of the first half from the beginning through that European campaign until the middle of the summer. Everything was steady, but nothing was spectacular. But when we were planning this meeting, Mark, you commented on the form of Ilves and HIFK.
Yeah.
What did you have to think about that?
That was another thing. I mean, both. So Ilves and HIFK got up because Honka and Mupa went to the banks, and everybody pretty much, particularly Ilves, everybody just expected them to fill in those bottom 2 places and then kind of disappear. And I think both of them, I mean, they were both safe with months and months to go. Hence Keke's day off. But I mean, they took a lot of teams by they took a lot of teams by surprise, and they did a lot of. I mean, the derbies that they made in Helsinki were massive events. I mean, they were. I mean, we went to a couple of them, and it was a bit. I don't know. It had a little bit of 1980s feel about it.
Flares and cop.
Well, flares and mounted policemen, and a little bit of argy-bargy, and I don't know. It was that sort of because Hoiko spent a lot of time basically under strength and undermanned. They just got roughhoused by HIFK, and it was just nice to see a proper combative football.
And were they getting crowds of sort of near enough 10,000 for some of those games?
All of them were over 10,000, I think. The 3 matches were sold out and over 10,000, and those 3 matches, again being the biggest league stadium in the country, that went all over Europe. People seeing that because there was a proper rivalry in the big city. It just made a big difference. You see people actually travelling over to watch the games, and the atmosphere. Yeah, the games were typical derby. Really, they were tense. There wasn't a lot of opportunity to flair or individual brilliance, but both teams gave it a good go, and the atmosphere was the thing that really we came away with thinking was brilliant.
And you talked about I mean, the kids that they brought up from Klubi 04, and I think in a fair few in a couple of the games, they didn't handle it. I think as well. Like they just didn't kind of know what to do. They showed their inexperience, and they got kind of bullied a little bit.
Yeah, but I say it's as an experience, playing in a game where there's that much interest and that much noise, and the smoke is another issue that we think it's atmosphere. The powers that be don't. They're lining their pockets with all these fines. But that's what people like to see. People, especially from England, I've heard of people actually going over to watch the games, and that's brilliant. But it's not just them. It's some of the other games as well. You think there was the derbies between SJK and VPS. When I went to Ilves a couple of times, the atmosphere was fantastic. I went to the game where they played Hoiko, in June, and that was sold out, and it was just over 5,000, and the noise was incredible, and everyone got so involved. There wasn't too much smoke there, but it was brilliant, and a sold out game that wasn't one-sided. It was a competitive game. It was 1-1 in the end. It was a great game, and I'd fully recommend anyone going to Finland to go and watch an Ilves game. I've been there twice now, and both times been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Keke on the message board is saying pretty much the same thing. The Nilon Pojat deserve a mention for making Tamala a hard place to go to. So I guess that backs up what you're saying there, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I went there last year when they played KTP at the sort of end of last season, and that was 3,000 or 4,000 there in a second division game, and that was good. But this year they played Hoiko, and it was. I mean, yeah, the champions come to town. It's always a big occasion, but they were brilliant. The whole atmosphere, and it is a small ground, and I know it's in line to be redeveloped, but it's one of those old. It's almost like an old English ground, like Highbury or Selhurst Park, where it's in a residential area. You're right on top of it, and it's brilliant.
And it echoes like all around. Like it can be a real cauldron.
Yeah, and games.
So do you think that? Sorry, Rich. Do you think that the way that the Ilves performed for the first 3 quarters of the season meant that Keke deserved the day off?
I think he thinks he does. Yeah.
Well, explain to everybody what happened there.
Well, effectively, his team were away to SJK in Seinäjoki. I think there was about 5 or 6 games to go, and they were almost guaranteed safety with 6 games to go. And as he wasn't at the stadium, his team were playing. They lost 2-1 in the end, and it turned out that he was punditing on TV for the English Premier League at the same time. Now, obviously, that then got a little bit viral, and everyone got a lot of interest in it, me included. But the club then sacked him 3 days later, and then his defence was that the contract he signed prior to the club being promoted at the sort of as a result of the financial stuff that Mark mentioned earlier, the club got promoted, but he still was on his so-called second-tier contract, and the man says he was out of pocket, and he says he'd agreed it. Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. Let them sort it out. But it was one of those things that you just kind of think, oh God, cool stuff. And I'm sure he thinks he was right, and he was out of pocket, I'm sure. But it was quite funny.
He was right. I mean, look, he got paid to do a job, and he got Ilves safe. They played, decent football. I think he had of course, obviously he could have used a bit more tact. But, he's working in his second language. So, maybe he just didn't know the words for, like, I'm off.
I'm taking a personal day.
I'm taking a yeah. Keke on the phone. No. That's not the studio.
It's his evil twin.
Yeah.
He'd
done the job. They'd stayed up. They weren't going anywhere. They were safe. So for me, he had every right to at least bang on the table and ask for more money.
Yeah, and I think no one begrudges a man earning a living, because his job for that year was to keep Ilves up, and he had done that. But I just think that it is a little bit, you do wonder that, without knowing what goes on behind the scenes, and he said he'd agreed it with some people, you just sort of think it's your day job, and that is your job. I think it was a bit disrespectful, and I don't blame a man for thinking he's out of money, out of pocket. No one, and I think he's shown that he's earned a bit more money this way. But I just think the way he did it was just awesome. It
wasn't. But I think as well, you can't forget, because I love there's a special place in my heart for Keke because, I mean, we can't forget how good a manager he won three titles with Haka. Brought them up from Ykkönen. I think it was Kakkonen back then even. And won 3 titles with Haka. He won 2 titles with Hoiko. So I've got a lot of time for him.
Nope, I think Mark has well and truly gone now. Yeah. Right, well, anyone who's watching, I don't think Mark... Other Mark, I don't think he was trying to get a word in edgeways.
Well, this might be a good time for a break, for if there's any questions.
Yeah, I've had a couple of questions on Twitter. Let's go first. Adam, who I've met before, he's a Englishman who is a fan of Helsinki's hockey team, but he's asked if Finland will ever qualify for a major international tournament. Now, what could we say other than,
yes, of course we will.
How did they not qualify this time? With the group that they had, and it, just shows that when teams like Holland don't qualify, some of the big clubs who've gone into, the playoffs even. I mean, I've got Ireland, Bosnia on the telly in front of me, but you think it's just, I know Mixu lost his job, but it's just poor form that the team who were the 5th seed won that group quite easily. And then Romania and Hungary, who, Romania in my lifetime have been a good team, and Hungary, 50 years ago were one of the best teams in the world. But, they've qualified from that group and made Finland, by the time they've picked themselves up off the floor, it's been too much to do.
Mixu was in the press on Sunday. He was given some lecture in Scotland on some course, and they asked him about the Finnish national team, and he said basically that the national team of Finland doesn't have enough quality. And for me, it's one of the things that makes me the most angry, because it's not your job. You can't change the quality in the national pool. Certainly not in 3-4 years. So for me, to use that as an excuse, clearly he misunderstood the whole job and the whole point. I mean, they played the same system in every single game. So if you're Northern Ireland or Hungary or Romania, you must be thinking, brilliant. I know exactly how these guys are going to play. They're going to go Christmas tree, and they're going to, try and keep the ball at the back, and then eventually get frustrated and start punting it long. And I mean, if you're Roman Yarmolenko, if you're winning the Russian Premier League's Player of the Season, and then you're being shunted out to left wing, and then you have to come back to defensive midfield to pick up the ball. Or if you're like Kari Arkivuori, 32, and Mixu would have said, okay, Kari, I want you to run the line all the way. And he would have said, boss, I'm 32. I can go up, but I can't go back. Yeah. And it's the same. Jarkko Hurme was the same, and a fair deal slower than Kari. So, yes, I mean, if you think about qualifying for a major tournament, are we good enough to beat the likes of Northern Ireland and Romania and Hungary? Yes. We just need another group like that. We just need another group like that. I mean, if you look at like the World Cup's, Turkey, Ukraine, Croatia, Iceland. Yeah. Those teams will all take points off each other.
Yeah.
So there's a chance you could qualify with less than, the sort of usual sort of 27, 30 odd points that you'd need. So
yeah.
There's a chance.
It's unfortunate really that Finland's group for that tournament is tainted by the fact that they were 5th seed because of whatever the FIFA rankings were at the time.
In the last 2 months, we've gone up 40 places.
Yeah.
Since Canada took over.
Yeah.
And if the seeds were drawn now, we'd be in pot 3.
Yeah. And they're in a very tough group, and you've only got one guaranteed qualifier from the group as well. And so, but you think, like you say, that if Finland can get in a run, and if the new manager comes in, and if he gets a bit of momentum going, he's already said that he'll be a bit more mindful of the opposition teams and how they line up, and not just rigidly sticking to the same Christmas tree every time. Then it's the same. Obviously you can tell by my cushion behind me, I watch a lot of Arsenal as well, and that's one of the complaints that we've always had, is that Arsene Wenger doesn't often change to meet the opposition, because sometimes you just have to play to win the game, not to, sometimes you just got to play what's in front of you. But,
We've got. I'm back, by the way. So I was keeping quiet because I was enjoying the chat. But there's a question on there going back to the national team from Juspe 15. Is the lack of real wing players a major problem for Finland?
Yes and no. I mean, so if you look at like Röperiskis can bang goals in for fun in the Veikkausliiga. He'd never really got a chance in Haugesund in Norway. So if he gets a chance and doesn't score, he's a player I think we should think about shipping out on the wing, because so it's not great that we don't have a great deal of width. But then Jonas Emmett, he was a winger, never got the chance. Röperiski can play there. He's never really been tested. Kappe Hamalainen plays sort of wide and central in Nets Poznan, where they won the league last year and they're doing all right in the Europa League this year. He can play wide. So there is width in the team. We've just got to figure out a way to use it. The fact that it's not been tried is a problem. And I think it's not that we don't necessarily have it. It's that we haven't really given it a shot.
Yeah.
Rich, have you got more questions there on Twitter?
Unfortunately, one of the downsides of our hashtag is some of the things we're picking up are about the quality of virgins. I won't even go into too much more. But
the airway?
Yeah. But, I think the direct questions we've had anyway, we've pretty much covered. So, say now the threesome is back. Do you want to get back onto Veikkausliiga?
So wait, shall we? There was an idea here about the success after many years of IFK Mariehamn, who won the Finnish Cup. Tell this story, Mark.
No, it just sort of struck me. I mean, I had to check it like maybe 100 times, even though it's really easy to figure out. So IFK Mariehamn, they've been in the Veikkausliiga now for, I don't know, something like 15 consecutive seasons. And Luski, the coach, who quit after he won the cup, has been their manager for 22 years. And I was just thinking, like, it just sort of struck me because obviously we watch a fair deal of the Premier League and Italian football and Spanish football, and you can't get a manager really to stay at a club for like 10 games if they don't win in the bigger leagues. And here's a guy who's been in charge on the island in Mariehamn for 22 years without winning anything, and then this season got what he deserved. They played pretty good football. Petri Forsell was injured for some of the season, came back for some of the cup games. They smashed Hoiko. Like I think it was it 5-1 in the end. Yeah. That was one of those beautiful sort of, when you put the TV on and you're not expecting anything. You've got like a can of beer and the kids have gone out and it's just a bit quiet. And you think, yeah, all right, I'll watch a bit of TV. And it was 5-1 after. I think I was supposed to watch. I think Spurs were playing Stoke, and I was flicking between the two, and then I just stopped and watched the game. And I don't take that much joy in watching Hoiko get beat because I do like Hoiko, but 22 years, no trophy, and now he's got one.
He's gone out on
They won it in style.
Yeah.
And you think, like, you see some of the, I heard Darren Purse was interested in applying for the vacant job, and he's currently a coach at Staines Town, who are in the Vyman Premier Division with my lot, and
yeah, your neck of the woods.
Well, yeah, we're in the same division. And they had the other chap, I forget his name, who didn't have the qualification they needed at the time. But they've got that club. They've got a trophy. They've got a first major trophy. They've got UEFA Cup again. They qualified a couple of years ago. This time they're in, and it's a good little background for whoever the next person to come in. And unfortunately, it looks like they're going to lose their goalkeeper, Virtanen, to Werder Bremen, which that's not a bad career move. But for an island so small to come out and do so well, just shows that it's not just the money, it's not just the numbers of people. It's eventually sometimes you do have to stick with a manager, and eventually you might get that right combination of young players and the right signings here and there. They all gel together, and in this case, it's turned out to be a very, very successful season for them.
Is Otto moving to Werder Bremen a good move?
I'm not sure if it's a good move. I imagine he'll go into their under 23 team. I think it is in Germany. It's certainly going to be education for him. It's certainly going to, I can only imagine the jumping class of coaching and environment is good, but you're missing the vital ingredient then of sort of regular first team football. You can't coach that. You can't artificially sustain that. And while I think the move is good, I just hope that it's not like the several other players who've been languishing in the under 23s with no chance of playing anywhere, and then having to come back to Finland and start again. I mean, Forsell will be the prime example of when he went to Turkey and has come back.
Well, if you think about Tim Sparv, it took him. He was at Southampton. Took him 5 years to get his career back on track. And Jesse Jordan, he's Fulham.
Yeah.
And he's farmed out twice on loan. There's no shortage of players who go out, and then Tim Väyrynen is maybe the classic one. It just didn't get game time. And you think, I'm always skeptical of the big moves. I'd prefer them to play. I mean, the under 21s played on Friday, and they got beat by Austria 2-0. And I thought in that match that even though he got sent off, which I thought was massively unfair, Yagubi was probably one of the standout players, one of the best players. And you could see that he got sent off in that game basically because he was one of the very few players on the pitch that was playing competitive football. His tackles were just a bit too grown up, I think, for his level.
But again, you look at him, he's another player who's gone abroad. It's not worked out for various reasons. I mean, I know with the Russian league and the Latvian team that he signed for, just as well he did come back, and he had a very, very good year after his initial, I'm not sitting on the fucking bench comment or something like that. But again, it's one of those things, and it comes back to something that's, again, I'm going slightly off topic here, but where, the big clubs are stockpiling, buying all these young players. If they have a scout at, they've probably seen Otto at a under 21 or an under 19 international game and gone, all right, yeah, we'll have him. Meanwhile, they've got 70, 80 young kids festering in their various development squads, probably getting training at fantastic world-class facilities, but they're not getting first-team football. Where are we now?
I'm just giving you some space so that I don't talk over the top of you. Alicante is being very busy in the message board. It also points out Eero Markkanen as well.
So again, there's lots of things that make me angry about Finnish football. Eero Markkanen's move is number one on the list. It is a deal that I think it made 2-3 people really rich for a really short time, and it made absolutely no football sense. In the last player to go from Real Madrid Castilla to the Real Madrid senior team and play consistently was Iker Casillas and then Guti, which was I think I think it's something like 19 years ago. So in 20 years, when Real Madrid, and this is, everybody knows this is like as fact, when they need a player, they just go out and get one. They don't spend $2 million on a player to bring into their youth academy, train up in the Spanish third division, and then promote. It just doesn't happen. So I think there was a lot about that was about getting Markkanen on FIFA 15 and getting getting somebody big in the bottom of the Spanish leagues. But you watch the games, which is incredibly difficult, by the way. But you watch the games, and it's just, you can't say it's a step up from Allsvenskan to Serie B2.
Yeah.
It's just not.
But as Andy points out, AIK have done very, very well out of this. They've basically loaned him out for a year, got €2 million out of it, and come the new season in Sweden, he'll be fit, ready to go, and
at the expense of Finnish football, though, because 2 years ago, he was 22, and he was one of the hottest young prospects. He'd had one season in AIK. He'd scored about 7-8 goals in about 15 games. Massive prospect. He was huge. He could still keep the ball at his feet. He was quick. Now he's coming back. He's 24. He's got a reputation that's, I think unjustly tarnished by the weight issues that he's had. So while AIK have done good, we've lost a player. What we needed under Miksu was a big striker that could hold the ball up and control it, and he didn't want to play Sadiq.
Good old fashioned number 9.
Yeah, Markkanen was the guy, and now he's got to kind of, he still has to do work to get back to where he was 2 years ago.
So back to the Veikkausliiga. I think we're coming towards the midsummer. We've come through the Finnish Cup final that you enjoyed. How was I know what my view of the final day was. I was up on those wooden benches in the corner of Keskuskenttä in Seinäjoki, being squashed against the wall because everybody, I think the whole town of Seinäjoki was there on that day, and they all seemed to want to stand in the Kloppit area in the corner of the stand and make some noise. How did that day pan out from your viewpoint where you were?
Well, I was here in London. It's quite difficult to, how should we say, legally follow these games.
So you had the radio on?
Wow. The international TV rights go to the betting companies on their tiny little screen. Luckily, Ule's feed was very, very good. Of course, not being in Finland, I had to find ways around that, which I won't go into. But, it was strange because SJK got the early goal. Was it 62 seconds? I think it was that Hetemai scored. And after that, they just looked so nervous. And with Rops then, got their act together. They were at Lappi, weren't they? And Oikor at Kups. And you just sort of tell that the more the game went on, you were worried for the state of Ashikor, that they might just concede. And Yellow had a couple of chances. And, for them as well, they had to win to have even a shot of staying up. It was then they scored. Was that the 89th or 90th minute? They got the second goal.
I think it was a little bit earlier, but it was with less than 10 minutes to go. Yeah, for sure. And Yarrow had played well that day. If their shortcomings were anything like that final day, then they couldn't shoot. They just didn't really trouble the goal. They played good football, and no end result. And on that, I think you're right. I think nervous. I was
for me. We watched it. I watched it at a corporate event with Chef Kikuchi among others.
Clang! Let's pick up that name.
Yeah, I know. I literally, it's the only one I have. I bumped into Keke many years ago in the pub, and I've been dropping that one since 2008. So, but yeah, we were watching it, and I think it was quite clear that Hoyiko were going to win, and everybody was just waiting we had the multi-screen up, and we were just waiting for Yarrow to score, and they got a couple of close efforts, but as soon as Röperiski scored, it was like, well, most of the stadializer just hit the bar.
We've had a few days similar in the last few years with various promotions or whatever, and finishing second last year was a real achievement, but this year just to go that one step further was unbelievable. And not only was the whole town of Seinäjoki seemingly in the stadium, but also then on the pitch. afterwards. So I think everyone's got their own snaps from being on the pitch.
Yeah, we saw your Facebook pictures.
Flattering.
I did get messages from a few people.
Yeah, I'll say we did enjoy seeing that, and the fact that a league title win gets celebrated in the community, and the fans were there, and it's like it gives it that sense of, I'll say, community again, and the fact it represents the town, and it's just such a nice change from seeing, say, Man United winning in England or Real Madrid chucking trophies under the bus in Spain, and being so far away from the crowd. It's just and I know there's SJK there's a bit of money behind them, there's no, we're not going to make out that they're paupers or anything like that, but they have come such a long way in such a short time. Who can begrudge them a trophy that a league table doesn't lie? They deserve to win it.
Yeah, big time.
I want to just say, just before. I mean, that's clearly, I have the biased opinion, but I just wanted to mention someone Juspe again has said that's sad to see Yellow go down. I just wanted to mention their fans on that final day. There were about 50 or 60 of them. They didn't stop. And even going a goal down in the first minute could have been demoralising, but they just didn't stop, and they were loud, and that fired us up on the ground, and right to the end, as loud as they were at the beginning, and then they held up their banner saying, we'll be back, and I really hope they are. I hope they get straight back up next season. So respect to them.
They will, but I think, Juspe says that it'd be nice to see Sergei and Serg next year in Veikkausliiga. I think Sergei will be back in the Veikkausliiga next year. He's young, he's up and coming. I don't think he's going to spend a season in Ykkönen. He scored, I think he got one or two. Did he score? Did he get 1 goal, 2 goals, something like that? He's got talent, so I think he'll be back in the Veikkausliiga this year.
Yeah, I would say I can't see Lossa. The shirts won't fit.
I think he's going to India.
Right.
I think that's the latest rumours.
But
someone else that won't be back in the Veikkausliiga next year is Alan Souza, who came to Seinäjoki for his loan spell from Liverpool, which is quite a coup, I think, really, for Seinäjoki. And he's a young boy. 18 years old, probably not played so much. He looked tired at the end of some games, but the ability was clearly there, and he made a difference.
And, as from your chat with Larry a couple of weeks ago, where you talked about the fact that Liverpool still had these tabs on him where they were monitoring his data and checking what he was up to, and they were tweeting links to his goals and things like that. It definitely worked both ways, and he's definitely not ready to get anywhere near an English Premier League team. But if he ends up going to, someone said, Switzerland or something like that, then he's a very bright boy, and again, will he make the grade at the highest level? Who knows? But for the 8 or 9 games he played for SJK, it was just that little bit of something different. I wouldn't say he's the class that made it, and I love using the Alan Key pun, several times. But the obvious quality he has on the ball, it's promising. It's good for Liverpool as well.
Yeah, I think the game where he kind of assisted and set up three goals in one game is perhaps the highlight. Even if one that was going directly in from the corner was nicked right on the line by I think Roope Aristi, so he didn't get to claim that one.
Proper striker's goal.
Yeah, for a couple of yards. I guess having talked about the end of this, maybe it's a bit early to preview next season, but it will see Champions League. I can barely believe I'm saying the words all in the same sentence, and moving into a new stadium. And Rich mentioned the interview, the podcast that I put out a couple of weeks ago, speaking to Larry from Asiko, and talking a little bit about the new stadium, but a 6,000 capacity, purpose-built football stadium coming to a relatively small town like Seinäjoki is going to it's going to be quite special, I'm sure. If we can keep this, maybe we should.
Yeah, I'll say it certainly bodes well.
Try and do something
immediately
from
removing the chartered train disco special down to Helsinki to host a home game. It's actually having a home that's fit for purpose. That it's you see it all over Europe. The club gets a new stadium and a new lease of life, and they go into a new home as champions. Why not?
For the upcoming season, Bana Lehkosuo is massively under pressure because it's Hoiko. So he probably gets this one because of the injuries and because he's a young manager and they've got high hopes for him. But if he gets 2-3 months into the season and he's not Hoiko anywhere else but first or second, he'll probably be gone.
Yeah, and then you're looking at HJK. They're going to have to start looking abroad again for another manager, because who else really? The way they're going.
One word, 2 syllables. Keke. He's ready.
Well, he's certainly looking for more money anyway. Get those euros out.
I think we've got no other specific comments coming through on the message board, and we've been going now for nearly an hour. Which were the outstanding players, top scorer, and those two?
I didn't get that one.
I think he was looking for I don't know, player of the season, something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
It's one of those strange things that with all the teams at the top being so close, and that almost there wasn't the one absolute standout player. You had Koko was a top scorer, but he got 3 hat-tricks. And you think he scored, I think he was a top scorer, 17 goals over the season. But again, he was available on a free transfer. Rops re-signed him, and fair play, he did the business. As you said earlier, Yagubi on his day was one of the best players in the league. Sometimes his brain, and he's still a young kid at the end of the day, sometimes that brain just needs focusing in the right direction, but that'll come. I think as far as pure talent goes, I think he was probably the most exciting individual anyway.
Yeah,
and both of those players playing at Rops as well, who
it was proper
necessarily playing the most.
Like 2 banks of 4, and then a big striker, and then somebody like Mosa to just be magic, to just do something.
He loses points for that selfie though.
Yeah, yeah. He's a young lad.
Young boy, young baby.
We'll keep an eye on him next year with some interest. Let's maybe start to wind it up for this week. Thanks to everyone that's joined us to watch this, and if you're listening to the podcast, then thanks for downloading it. We've managed to keep our Number of viewers up above 30 people all the way through the show. So thanks everyone for watching, joining in on there. Rich, why don't you tell everyone where they can? Yeah, and that's quite right as well. Give us some love. Tap the hands on the pictures before we hang up. We need more love.
2 more loves.
If you want us to come back.
No, come on. Hey.
Oh, there you go. Oh, through the roof. We love you too. Rich, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you online out there?
Well, my website is escapetoswarmy.com. At the moment, I, working on some player interviews. Most of my, I've got Vahid Hambo as he's at Brighton this season. He's answered some questions, so I just need to tidy those up. After that, who knows? But I'll be looking at doing some interviews over the winter.
And Mark, where can people find you?
I'm at fcswarmy.com. I'm also on Facebook. My Twitter feed and that kind of stuff is occasionally delightful, but but perhaps inconsistent. I think my next port of call is Dusseldorf. I'm going to see if I can get a Joel Pohjanpalo Fortuna goal this year, because he's yet to open his account in the Bundesliga. You
can be his lucky charm.
I saw he got a brace last time I was there last season, so fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I'm online as the Explore Finland radio show on Twitter at Explore Finland, on Facebook and Instagram as well, if one of those is what you prefer. I'm going to stop the recording now. Maybe we can have a few minutes off the record. Bit of a private after hours club for those that have stayed here to the end. If anyone wants to jump in and talk to us, then request to join the show. But for this recording and for this episode, the first episode of the Finnish Football Show, Rich and Mark, thanks for being here. Thanks for having the idea as well. I'm just along for the ride, but it's been a hell of a ride. And until the next show, which will probably be sometime next month, thanks again and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.